I found out my wife was hiding her affair right under my nose, but I didn't realize it until it was too late. It started like any other morning. I woke up to the sound of my wife, Sarah, in the kitchen, making coffee. The sunlight was creeping in through the blinds, and the smell of fresh coffee was filling the house. It felt like a normal day, just like any other. But looking back now, I realized there were so many signs I had ignored, things I should have noticed, but I didn't. I was too trusting, too blinded by love, to see the truth. Sarah and I had been married for 5 years. We met in college, and things moved quickly. We moved in together after 6 months of dating, got engaged a year later, and then married right after graduation. It felt perfect. We had our issues like any couple, but overall, I thought we were happy. At least, I thought I was. That morning, Sarah seemed her usual self, smiling, humming to herself as she prepared breakfast. She kissed me goodbye as I left for work, and I thought nothing of it. But there was something strange in the way she kissed me, something distant, something that made me feel like she was slipping away. I shrugged it off. Life was busy. We were both stressed with work and had been spending less and less time together. I didn't think much of it at the time. But then, over the next few weeks, things started to change. Sarah wasn't as attentive. She became more distant. She spent more time on her phone, texting constantly, and whenever I asked her about it, she would brush it off. Just work stuff, she would say, but I knew something was off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt it. As the days went on, Sarah's behavior became even more erratic. She was always tired, always on her phone, and whenever I tried to talk to her, she seemed distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home early to surprise her. I was hoping to spend some quality time together, maybe have a quiet dinner, but when I walked through the door, I noticed something strange. The house was silent, almost too silent. I called out for her, but there was no answer. I found her in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, her phone in her hands. She quickly shoved the phone into her pocket when she saw me, almost as if she had been caught doing something she shouldn't. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. Sarah just gave me a weak smile and shrugged. "Nothing, just tired," she said, but I could tell she was hiding something. I didn't push further that night. I should have, but I didn't. The next few days were a blur of tension. I tried to act normal, but the atmosphere in our home felt off. I noticed Sarah's behavior becoming even more secretive. She started leaving the house more often, claiming she had to work late or had plans with friends. I started to feel like I was losing her, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was just a phase. Maybe it was just stress. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One evening, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I saw something that made my blood run cold. Sarah's phone, which she always kept face down on the table, buzzed. I looked over and saw a name flashing on the screen. It was a name I didn't recognize, Jake. The name alone didn't mean much to me, but something about it made my stomach churn. I tried to ignore it, but curiosity got the best of me. When Sarah went to the bathroom, I quickly grabbed her phone and unlocked it. What I saw next shattered everything. I scrolled through her messages, my heart pounding in my chest. There were dozens of texts exchanged between Sarah and this Jake, all from the past few weeks. I could feel the anger rising in me as I read through them. The messages were flirtatious, full of inside jokes and references to private things I had never been a part of. My hands started shaking as I read a message where Sarah mentioned how much she missed him, how she couldn't wait to see him again. I felt like I was drowning, like the air had been sucked out of the room. I had always trusted her, always believed that our relationship was strong, but now everything felt like a lie. My heart sank as I read another message from Jake, asking her when she would be free for another secret rendezvous. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Was this really happening? Was she cheating on me? I didn't know what to do. I was angry, hurt, and completely overwhelmed. When Sarah came back into the room, I tried to act normal, but my mind was racing. I had so many questions, but I didn't want to confront her just yet. I needed more proof. I needed to know the full truth. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention to her behavior. She was still acting distant, still disappearing for hours at a time. One evening, I decided to follow her. I knew I shouldn't have, but I couldn't help it. I had to know where she was going. I waited until she left the house, then I got in my car and followed her. I tried to keep a safe distance, but I could see her driving nervously, almost like she knew I was behind her. After a few minutes, she pulled up to a hotel. My heart skipped a beat. She didn't get out of the car right away, but I could see her talking to someone through the window. It wasn't until they both got out of the car that I saw who it was: Jake. They walked into the hotel together, laughing, their hands brushing as they walked in. I stayed in my car, unable to move. The sight of them together, so happy and carefree, made me sick to my stomach. My worst fears were coming true. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was standing there, completely paralyzed, my mind reeling with 1,000 thoughts. This was it. Sarah had betrayed me. And I had all the proof I needed. I spent the next hour sitting in my car, staring at the hotel, my mind spinning. It was hard to process what I had just seen. I thought about confronting her right then and there, but something inside me told me to wait. I didn't want to make a scene. I didn't want to be rash. I needed to have all the facts before I said anything to her. When they finally left the hotel, I followed them back to Sarah's car. They were laughing, talking like nothing was wrong. My heart ached with every step I took behind them. I had never felt so betrayed in my life. I couldn't believe she was doing this to me. I had always been there for her, always supported her, and this was how she repaid me? After they parted ways, I went straight home, my mind still a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't know how I was going to face her when she came back. But I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to let this go. I couldn't just pretend like nothing had happened. The next few hours were the longest of my life. Sarah didn't come back until late in the evening. When she finally walked through the door, she smiled at me like everything was normal. My stomach churned as I watched her. How could she be so casual about all of this? As she started talking about her day, I could feel my temper rising. I wanted to scream at her, demand answers, but I didn't. Instead, I kept my cool. I had to. "How was your day?" I asked, my voice calm but my insides were anything but. She smiled. "It was good, just busy." That was it. No mention of Jake, no mention of what I had seen. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me. I wanted to lash out, but I didn't. "Not yet." "Where were you earlier?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She froze for a second, then casually replied, "Oh, just running errands. You know, the usual." But I knew it was a lie. I knew exactly where she had been. I just couldn't prove it. "Not yet." "I see," I said, my voice tight. I turned away and walked into the other room, trying to control my breathing. I was so angry, so hurt. But I couldn't confront her just yet. I needed to wait for the right moment. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of everything pressing down on me. My mind kept replaying the images from earlier that day, Sarah and Jake together, laughing, sharing that intimate moment. I couldn't stop thinking about it. How long had this been going on? Had I been completely blind to it? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I hadn't noticed the little signs, the things she'd said and done that should have tipped me off. Had she been hiding it from me for months? I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how. I didn't want to just start accusing her without proof. But deep down, I knew what I had seen, and I knew it wasn't just a coincidence. It was intentional. The next morning, I woke up early and decided to do something I hadn't done before. I called Jake. I didn't want to, but I needed answers. If he really cared about Sarah, he needed to come clean about whatever was going on. He answered after a couple of rings. "Hello," his voice sounded tired. "Jake, it's me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "I know what's going on," I said, my heart pounding. "I know what you and Sarah are doing. I saw you both yesterday." I could hear him shift on the other end of the line. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said quickly, but his voice was shaky. "Don't lie to me, Jake. I saw you at the hotel. I saw you with Sarah. Don't try to deny it." There was another pause. I could hear him breathing heavily. "Look, man, it's not what you think. Sarah and we didn't mean for it to happen." His voice was full of guilt. "You didn't mean for it to happen?" I almost laughed, the bitterness in my voice unmistakable. "So what? You're telling me it's just a mistake? You two just ran into each other, and this whole thing just happened by accident?" "It's complicated," he said quietly. "I didn't want to hurt you. But it just happened." "Complicated?" I almost shouted, but I managed to control myself. "You've been sleeping with my wife behind my back, and it's complicated?" "There's no complicated, Jake. You betrayed me. Both of you." There was a long silence on the other end. I could tell he didn't know what to say. "I never wanted this," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted to hurt you. But it's done. There's nothing we can do about it now." That was it. He didn't apologize. He didn't try to explain himself. He just gave up. "Yeah, it's done," I said, my voice cold. "And now I'm done, too." I hung up the phone and sat there in silence, trying to process everything. But the truth was, there was no processing this. My entire world had just come crashing down in front of me, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The days that followed were a blur. I barely spoke to Sarah. I couldn't even look at her without seeing Jake's face, without feeling the anger and betrayal burning inside me. She tried to talk to me, of course, but I shut her down every time. I couldn't even bring myself to hear her excuses. She would apologize, beg me to understand, but I wasn't interested in any of it. The only thing I could think about was how easily she had lied to my face, how she had manipulated me into believing everything was fine while she was sneaking around with Jake. My whole life had been a lie. The worst part was knowing that I had trusted her, loved her, and she had taken advantage of that trust in the most painful way. It was almost like she had planned it all out, knowing exactly how to keep me in the dark while she did whatever she wanted. It wasn't just the affair that hurt, it was everything else, the realization that the person I had built my life with, the person I had counted on, had no problem throwing it all away for someone else. The thought of Jake, the man who was supposed to be my friend, the one I had trusted with my life, made it all worse. He had betrayed me, too, and in a way, it felt like he had stabbed me in the back. There was nothing I could do about it now. The damage was done. I couldn't take back what had happened. I had a decision to make. I could either stay and try to work things out with Sarah, or I could leave and never look back. The idea of staying felt impossible. How could I ever trust her again? How could I live in a house where every corner reminded me of the lies, the betrayal? No. I knew what I had to do. I packed my things and moved out the next day. I didn't even say goodbye to Sarah. I couldn't bring myself to look her in the eye one more time. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure, I was done. My life was no longer going to be defined by her lies, by the betrayal of my so-called friend. I had to move on, even if it felt like the hardest thing I'd ever done. I had to take control of my life again. And so, I walked away.